Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you're doing well. I am Ashley Hyman. I'm the Director of Marketing here at AgilQuest. And before we get started on the webinar, just a little administrative information here. We are using a new platform. We're using GoToWebinar this time. And we, on the panel for the GoToWebinar, if you have questions or chat, you'll see a little box that says questions. Just please enter those in. We will be saving all of them for the end, and we will make sure if we don't get to any that we will follow up with you afterwards. So please do enter those in throughout the presentation. All right. So for our customers, those of you who have attended some of our more recent webinars, you'll know that one of the commitments we at AgilQuest have made is to continue enhancing the forum, bringing new and better experiences. And every time we do this, you, our customers, receive the benefits. So we're really starting to see more than just internal functionality, but also a number of integrations that truly create a seamless workplace experience. Just this year, we've had 2 major releases with some truly impactful new features and enhancements, and plan to continue this cadence throughout the rest of the year. So make sure you're keeping an eye out in your inbox for that information. For today, however, we really wanted to dive into what most people ultimately care about, the data. Everyone seems to be talking about the workplace experience, and I can attest to that, having just returned from InfoComm 2019. It was quite the buzzword. But do you really know the total impact that experience has on your organization? Providing a seamless workplace experience helps you generate actionable and strategic and operational data that supports the day-to-day needs of your employees and business, and data that gives you the answers to make long-term decisions about your workplace. So before we dive in, I want to quickly define the types of data we're going to talk about today. Operational data is that information is being collected in the system that allows you to make the short-term, in-the-moment decisions like, what spaces and conference rooms are available today, where are my colleagues sitting, do I have available space for visitors. Strategic data is the data that provides longer-term insights, such as, what are my busiest facilities and floors, who may be good candidates for telework and hoteling, do we really need more meeting rooms? So the question we're going to answer first today is, how do you get that data into the system? We built the platform with this very question in mind, and the answer is by offering an easy, comfortable user experience, one that really encourages the use of the platform through a familiar consumer-like UX, a variety of interfaces, and even some transparent transactions that happen without the user even realizing it. And with each transaction made in the system, whether for capturing presence with permanent seats, shared desks, and even free address or touchdown spaces, AgilQuest Forum Analytics engine then aggregates and analyzes to provide you with a variety of reports and dashboards to help you make those long-term strategic decisions about your workplace. So today, Richard Snelling, a forum expert and sales consultant, is going to walk you through just how easy we've made the user experience. So just remember, each time he makes a transaction, that information is being captured and used for both operational and strategic data. Then our analytics application architect, Jeremy Deo, will walk you through a number of reports and widgets available to provide you with the ever-important strategic data. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Richard.
All right, thanks for the introduction, Ashley. Welcome everybody. We want to, just give you kind of an understanding of what I'm going to be walking you all through today. So just going to be walking you through a couple of the different interfaces that users will use to interact with the AgilQuest Forum platform. So what we're currently seeing right here on the screen is the new AgilQuest Android application, released actually just a couple weeks ago here. And we just wanted to, walk you through how to make a quick reservation and understanding what you're seeing here on the screen. So, one thing that we always like to harp on is easy use of our platform. So you can see that it's pretty self-explanatory when you're on the home screen here of what you're going to be doing. Either trying to be making a reservation, managing any of your upcoming reservations, whether you need to modify, cancel, or invite people to those reservations. You can click the floor plans to see what spaces are available throughout that office that you're looking to book a space in, or see what's not available and where people are working. And then what we recently just added to our solution is scanning a QR code. The QR code is really beneficial for like free addressing, those free desks that anybody can walk up to and claim that space and scan that desk. Or QR codes are actually a cheaper option to have maybe outside of conference rooms if you don't want to have any digital signage, but wanted to have a way to people to claim that space right there on the fly. You can opt into having a QR code outside there. So I'm quickly going to make a reservation or claim a space, via the QR code. So you can see that I scan the code. It's going to have the date and time that I'm walking up and wanting that space. And once I hit submit, it's going to go ahead and claim that space for me. And I'm all set to go ahead and start working from that space that I claimed. What it's going to bring you back to is just show you all of the active reservations that you might have, again, throughout that day or in the future, being able to check in, check out, cancel, or modify any of your reservations. One thing that is nice about us having a mobile app is we can set up geofencing. And what that means is based on that user's home location, there can be a distance set up around it that if they come within, let's just use for example, 100 yards of that office space address, they will get a push notification to their mobile app, to their mobile phone, that'll allow them to easily check in to any of their upcoming reservations that they might have that day. So that's just one of the points of users will interact with our platform here on the mobile device. Now I'm going to jump over and share my web app, the web portal for users to be able to interact with. And as we go on, I'll continue to show different interfaces. But as Ashley touched on when in her introduction, we do have a consumer-like UX, very similar to things that we use on a daily basis on our personal lives, like Airbnb and VRBO and Pinterest. Websites that don't need a lot of training for users to understand and how to use. You just go in there and make a couple of clicks and you make your reservations. And so that's what we really wanted to do here in the AgilQuest platform, is make it very easy for the users to be able to come in and reserve space that they need to get their work done. So as we continue to scroll down here on the landing page, again, another space for people to modify any of their reservations, cancel, see their upcoming reservations here. We have recent reservations, so these are past reservations that have been completed already. This allows people to easily copy any reservation they've had in the past based on if they really enjoyed that room or liked that room that they worked out of, or that conference room was, the one that best fit for what they need in that meeting. They can easily copy their reservation. And then one thing that we've newly added here too is the My Teams. So this is going to allow users to see people that they designate that are on their team, to see where their reservations are for that day, if they're checked in or if it's awaiting check-in. So this will allow me, the user, to ultimately say, hey, I need to sit next to Jay or sit near Jay today because I'm going to be doing some collaborating with him. So that ultimately let me decide where I want to book and claim that space for the day. I'm going to go ahead and walk through making a reservation, and I'm going to show you all the different search by things that people can search to find. And so by choosing the space, the where, the type of asset that I'm going to book and reserve, so collaborative space like conference room, and then we have the start date and time and end date and time. So the first search by is I'm going to search by list. And what the search by list is going to show you is all of these spaces that are available only within that search criteria. So if someone else has a meeting booked for a different room, it's not going to populate on this list here. So it's going to show you what's only available. And then we do have the integrated Google map here on the right-hand side. So maybe this is someone that works at a different location and they need to know, what's around that office or how to get there. They can see this on the Google map on the right-hand side. We do have a calendar view. So this is nice, especially for conference rooms and different types of collaboration space. It's going to show you all of these spaces that are on that floor or in that building that are in the AgilQuest system, and it's going to show you their availability and when they're reserved. So we can see that this room is reserved from 1 to 3, so maybe I book another room. So this just lets you see the full day's calendar of all of these spaces throughout your office and what's available and what's not. And then the last view is the search by floor plan. This view is going to show you all of the spaces on that floor that are reservable by you. And you can see if it has a red triangle, that means that space is reserved during that time that you're looking to have space booked. And anything that is green shows that it's available for you to book during that time period. So if I wanted to go ahead and book this conference room, I could click it, add how many people are coming to this meeting, and hit submit. Easily, the reservation is done within a couple clicks. As users get more and more comfortable with our system, it'll take them roughly 15 to 20 seconds to make a reservation as they get more and more comfortable with it as well. Now I'm going to show you making a lot of people use Office 365 for the email and Outlook. And so we do have a two-way server integration with with Exchange. And this allows people who are comfortable booking conference room space specifically through this interface to be able to do that still and also leverage the AgilQuest platform in the back end as well. So I'm going to go ahead and make a reservation and include Ashley here on it. And I'm going to try to find a space that's available, as well as time that best works for me and her to be able to book that space. So we can see I have Ashley here, myself, and then I know I want to book this demo Boston 202 room. So I can see that the best available time for me and Ashley to meet would be tomorrow 11 a.m. So then I can come back here tomorrow 11 a.m. to 11:30. The room is included, and I hit send, and it makes that reservation instantaneously right there from Ashley and I. Not only does it send it to our Outlook calendars, but it also sends it to the AgilQuest platform, capturing all that data for you all to make decisions strategically or operationally in the future as well. I know I talked on having QR codes in the beginning outside of conference rooms or having them at the free address desk. But what we also do have is we have an interface that can be on digital signage outside of rooms for you. We do, AgilQuest is hardware agnostic. However, we do have a partnership with Intel, and they do provide an Intel market-ready solution that has the AgilQuest platform built onto it that has this nice, clean interface. What this interface is going to show you is any of the upcoming reservations that I might have or anyone might have throughout the day for a room, and then also what else is going on throughout that day in the room. What's nice about this is if you all do have RFID badges that your employees need to get into the building or get into your office specifically, those can also be linked to the signage so that if they want to walk up and make a reservation on the fly, they can take their card, badge it in front of the sign, and make a reservation quickly on the fly, easily within a minute or so. So this is the list view. We do have the calendar view, again, showing you the full day, actually full week, for that specific room. And then also kind of where they are, if they're at that sign, where they are in the building to maybe help them find themselves to the other side or find whatever they might need. All right. So with all these different ways that people have been interacting with the AgilQuest platform, users will find the best that works for them and continue to use that. So when they continue to interact with the AgilQuest platform, we'll be capturing all of that data, and all that data will be passed back to you in a nice, neat format that Jeremy will be showing to you all here in the next couple of seconds.
All right. Thank you, Richard. So now that we've seen some of the various interfaces that you can use to interact with our forum, let's take a look at what we can do with all of that data. So when you'll notice up at the top in forum, there's a link for analytics, and every user in the system has access to the analytics link. And when you go into it, end users will see their default user dashboard. And this is really a dashboard to show me my activity in the platform. So you're going to see things like how many upcoming reservations you have, how many total you've made, and things like that. But it also shows you some very interesting things that are useful to use. So I can see, based on the, where I'm checked into or what my home location is, I can see the popular times in that location on an hour-by-hour basis. And it defaults to show you the popular times for the current day, but I can go in and change that. So maybe I want to see what Wednesday looks like. I can see that as well. And I can also see what the popular days in that location are too. So looking at this, I can see that Wednesday is the busiest time. And so, this is really, the user dashboard is one example of how we take all of this data from Forum and we turn it around and we make this data actionable for the end users. And, using this information, I can make a choice about when I come into the office. I may choose Wednesday may not be the best day to come in. I may choose to work from home that day. So this is just one example of how we take that data and make it actionable for the end user. So there is, we do have in analytics a permissions layer, and if I'm an admin, I have access to this. Now we're not going to go in and look at all the various settings and things that you can do in there, but just know that admins have control over what individual users have access to. They control which data they can get to in analytics. They can control which widgets and reports they can use. Even setting things like down to the individual data element level, they can do that too. So for instance, maybe I have a user or a group of users that need to run a report, and I want them to be able to run the report, but I don't necessarily want them to see individual people names. I can actually set that, and so when they go to run the report, they'll see everything except where the people names are. Those names have been actually redacted from the report. So there's a lot of granular controls there that admins have access to for controlling how their users interact with analytics. Now, the account that I'm using today, it does have admin privileges. So when we go in and look at some of the various widgets and reports, just know that I have access to those, but not your regular end users are not going to see that. So the first thing I like to do is just kind of walk you through the process for creating a dashboard. And it's pretty easy. I'm just going to go up to the dashboard list link up at the top. I'm going to click New Dashboard, and I'll give it a name. Now, we really focused on user experience and throughout the entire AgilQuest forum platform, and we want this to be really, very, very simple to use. You don't need to be a data guru to go in or technology guru to go in and be able to create dashboards. We wanted this to be very, very easy. And so when I scroll through the list of widgets, I'm going to just literally just click on the install button next to the widgets that I want. And so I'm just going to go in and I'll add a few widgets here. And maybe I want some of these on there. We'll do one more. There we go. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and you could see how easy that was. I just clicked on the widgets that I wanted, and you can see that I've got this dashboard set up. And this is a really nice looking dashboard. It's it's a gorgeous dashboard. But what really makes this valuable is the data itself. So let's take a look at some of these widgets and what information this is really showing us. So this first widget up at the top, this is the monthly asset utilization widget. And this is actually one of my favorites because it's just such a clear and concise way of conveying so much information. We're looking at the actual utilization of our assets over a several-month period, and we can compare that to our capacity. So this red line up at the top shows us our capacity, and we can see the light blue bar is representing the total number of assets that were reserved during that month. I can see in February, for instance, close to 90% of our assets were actually reserved during that month. Now, the darker blue line, that represents the average for those assets. So on average, about 60% of our assets were reserved during February. Now, you notice the light teal range in the background. What that's showing is our actual utilization. And so, and it shows it as a range. So I can look and see that, during the month of February, there was some day during February where there were 59% of the assets were actually utilized. And then also there was some day that only 31% of those assets were being utilized. So it really, it gives me a clear picture of the range of use during that time, and it compares that over a several month time span. So like I said, it's a really useful widget. It shows a lot of information, and I think a lot of customers really appreciate that. So moving along, the next widget in our dashboard, the top locations, is a very simple widget, but it just shows the top 5 locations in our portfolio based on the number of reservations. So it looks at that reservation counts for those various locations, and it just shows us the top locations. The next one down, this collaboration space invitations, what this widget is really showing you is it's looking at the reservations for specifically collaboration space, but it's actually segmenting the invitee groups into size groups. So we can see, the reservations that have 2 to 5 guest invites, 6 to 8, 9 to 11, so on. So I can see what size groups are actually booking our collaboration space. And right next to it, this is our monthly reservation check-ins widget. And, this is a very simple one, but it shows on a month-by-month basis the number of reservations that are being made each month. And it compares that to the number of check-ins as well. So we can see that pretty easily. We've got some KPIs that I added to to our dashboard, so I can see just some really easy metrics here. Total logins, people, how many total reservations, upcoming reservations. So it kind of gives me a clear idea of how the system's being used. Down at the bottom, the last one that I added on here, this is our daily asset utilization. This is very similar to the monthly one, but this is for a little bit shorter time period, and it shows on a day-by-day basis. So just like with that monthly asset utilization widget, we can see our capacity as the red line up here at the top, and the darker teal area shows the those assets that were reserved, and then the lighter teal area shows those assets that were utilized. Now, one of the great things about analytics is that we offer a lot of ways to filter this data so that it's meaningful to you. And, a lot of different types of users will use analytics. We just pushed out an update late last week, and we added a whole bunch of new filters to the application. And I think there's over 20 different ways that we can filter this data. Now, this widget the dashboard that we created here, I didn't apply any filters to this. And so what we're really looking at here is data that kind of spans across our whole portfolio. And that's really good, if I want to have a very high level, big picture of our portfolio. But maybe, I'm in my role, maybe I'm only managing a portion of our real estate. And so what I can do is I can go in and actually add a filter for, maybe a specific region. Maybe I'm only managing our locations on the East Coast. I can go in and I can add a filter for that. We offer ways to filter individual widgets. You can apply different filters to each widget individually, or just making it even easier, you can apply filters at the the dashboard level, which will filter all of the widgets that you've installed on your dashboard. Now, if I'm a space planner, this is a really great tool for space planners because, it's not good enough to simply know, how many people are coming into the building. You really need to have a good understanding of the types of space that people are using in your building. But not even that, you really need to actually segment that data out even further and actually analyze that data for different groups of people. So, a lot of times what will happen is businesses, as they grow, they might outgrow their current space, and so they need to, go and lease some new space. And at least in the short term, what they might do is they kind of move some groups of people to the new location, keep other groups in the old location. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll do that by, business unit. And so, well, how do you know what type of space that those groups of people are using? And so analytics is really where it comes in, and it's really valuable because you can go in and you can create a dashboard and look at this data specifically for certain departments. So maybe I want to create a dashboard that looks at sales and marketing. And then I have another dashboard that looks at our IT department and our product teams. And so I can really get a good handle on how those teams are using the space, what types of space they're using. And I can even filter if I want to see, for instance, how are those groups of people using conference rooms based on room attribute? Are they using conference rooms that have video beams? Are they, are there some other types of attributes that people are tend to book rooms with? And so there's really some great filters here that allow you to really kind of slice and dice that data in the way that you need to be able to analyze it. So one of the other things that you can do with the dashboards is you can also share them. And so, I've created this dashboard and maybe I want to share this with my colleague. And so I'm just going to go up to the options and I'm going to click on share. And this screen shows me who has access to this dashboard. And obviously I just created it, so it's just me. But I can go in and I can add a user. And so I'm going to give Don access to this. And by default, Don will have read-only access to this dashboard. But if I wanted to, I could give him view and edit rights, which would allow him to go in and actually make some changes to that dashboard. And I can even, if I wanted to, allow editors to manage sharing. So maybe I want Don to be able to share that dashboard with other users in the system. I can turn that toggle switch on, and now he can go in and actually manage sharing as well. So it's just kind of an easy way, when you've created a dashboard to be able to share it with someone else. Now, keep in mind with sharing, I mentioned earlier that there is a permissions layer. If you share a dashboard with another user, they have to have permissions to be able to look at that data and look at the widgets that you've shared. So, it's really good capability there. So let's switch gears and we'll kind of switch over to the reports. Now, the dashboard is really good at kind of giving you a very high level overview, but there's going to be times when you need to kind of drill into that information and really look at it at a finer level of detail. And so we have several reports that you can use to kind of look at that data. And we're going to just look at a few of them today. We're going to start by looking at the person presence by month report. And this is a great report to really kind of measure, how often your employees are coming into the office. And it's a very simple report. You can see there's a list of people, and it's a very purpose-built report in the sense that we color code the metrics, the data points when they fall below 50%. So you can easily scan through this report and see those individuals that have not been coming into the office very frequently. This is really, it's a useful report if your organization is thinking about implementing a shared desk or a hoteling program. It's really good for identifying those individuals that are good candidates for a program like that. And it also, this is by month, so you can look at it on a month-by-month basis for, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. And so where does all this data come from? Like Richard mentioned, there's several different interfaces we have, whether that presence is being taken from a check-in event, whether they've made a reservation and checked in, or maybe they have maybe they just badged into the system. They didn't have a reservation, they just badged in. That's a presence event, and we take all this information, all that presence data, and we tabulate that for this report. So it's really, it's a very useful report. Now, on all of the reports, you do have the ability to export it in different formats. So you can create a PDF of it, a Word file. If you need to download it to Excel and maybe do some other analysis on it, you can do that. So we offer several different export formats. You can print the report, and all of the reports have various filters that you can apply. So maybe you want to run this for a specific user group or department, maybe even by job title. You can do that, or even just a handful of individuals. You can apply a filter for that as well. So the next report that we're going to look at, that was people presence, and the one that I want to show you next is actual asset utilization. Now, we looked at, on our dashboard, we had a couple of widgets that actually looked at the asset utilization. And this report is kind of drilling into that a little bit more in more detail, and it's showing you a few different things here. So you'll notice that we've kind of color-coded these bars up at the top. And what this is showing you is the breakdown of how those assets are actually being utilized. And so the green represents those assets that were, they were reserved and they were actually checked in. And then the yellow represents those assets that were assigned or reserved but not utilized. And then the red represents those assets that were not reserved, not assigned, and they just were vacant. And so we kind of show those three different categories there to give you a better picture of your utilization. We also show the top 5 utilized assets, just to, so you can kind of spot those. And we also show the overall asset usage based on those 3 categories. So you, same as up at the top, but we just show it as an overall metric. And we also break that down by asset category, so you can see how the individual categories of spaces are being used as well. And scrolling down, you can see this information for every asset and for every day, day by day for each asset. And we use symbols color-coded symbols to kind of help you identify how those assets are being utilized. And so just kind of scanning through this Madison Avenue, for instance, this is a meeting space. And I can see that it's vacant for actually more than half the time. And then also it's being booked and not being utilized. And it's actually during that 10-day time span, it was only used once, actually utilized once. So, when I'm looking at this, maybe that's something we need to take a closer look at and, figure out, okay, why is this room not being utilized? Is it too far away from the groups of people that are using this? So it's really kind of a good way of getting down into the details of on an asset by asset basis of how that's being used. Now, a lot of the reports they do offer, we do offer some ways to customize them. So you'll notice we do have a color scheme on this one, that's to represent those different asset utilization scenarios. But you can also customize this. So if you just don't like the green, yellow, and red, you can change the colors of that. And a lot of the reports offer those ways to personalize it and make it better, more personalized for the way that you want to look at the report. So the next one that we want to take a look at, this one is our usage snapshot report. And this is, we call this a snapshot report because it's really looking at a single, single point in time. the filter for this one, we set this one to today by default. So we're looking at this information currently as of today. We can see how many active users we have, how many inactive users we have, locations, assets. We break that down by the asset category. So you can see that. And if I wanted to, I could actually go back in time, and so I could change the filter and say, well, show me these numbers 6 months ago. How many users did we have active 6 months ago? And the way that we're able to do that, we have kind of on the back end, we didn't really talk about this too much, but we have a data warehouse, and we archive this data, and we're tracking changes over time. And that the data warehouse is really what's powering the analytics engine. So we tap into that, and we can show you how the data looked at specific points in time, which is really important. And we also look at reservation history. And this is a really good way of kind of seeing how your users are using the system. You can see how many reservations they're making. And we do break this number down by, are they booking shared space? Are they booking permanent space? And then, of course, we tabulate the totals there. But you can also look at this data for various time periods. So we show the weekly reservation history. You can look at it by month, by quarter, and you can look at it by year. And then at the very bottom, we show the active locations, and we show the assets by category at the bottom. So you can see how, the different types of assets that each one of those locations has. So it's really, it's a great report. It has a lot of information here, and to really kind of get a handle on adoption in your workplace program. Now, the last one that I wanted to show, this was the reservation list with pricing. This one is actually one that some of our customers are actually landlords, and they've chosen to, share some of their space with their tenants and actually charge for that space. And so this report really gives you an ability to go in and kind of track that usage. It shows the reservation details. It shows the who booked the space, when it was booked, who booked it. It shows the price of that asset at the time that they made the reservation. And of course, we also provide an estimate for that specific reservation, and that's based on the duration of the reservation. And so, it's really a useful report. Like I said, we have several landlords that use this to kind of track their usage of the shared space with their tenants. So hopefully, this will, give you an idea of what analytics is all about and what you can do with it, and how it really takes all of the data from the form, makes it actionable for a lot of different users, whether you're an end user or a building manager or a space planner. So with that said, I'm going to hand it back over to Ashley.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. That was a ton of information. I'm sure a lot to take in. Just a heads up for anyone on the line, we would love to offer personalized demos or a chance to dive into the platform. So if you would like to set something up with us, please email us. The email address right there on your screen, sales@agilquest.com, will work just fine, or you can go to our website, agilquest.com. So we're going to start out. We've had a few questions come in, and I am going to kind of bring in, we've got Don Davidson, Chief Revenue Officer, and Torrance Houlihan, our VP of Product, on with us today to help field some of the questions. And we had one come in while Jeremy was talking about the presence reports, and I think this is something that does come up quite a bit, especially in today with the all of the privacy acts. The question is, curious how to navigate personal privacy relative to capturing presence events. I could see people complaining about Big Brother. So how do we navigate that? Maybe Torrance, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, sure, Ashley, thanks. Happy to. So it's a really interesting question, navigating that balance between personal privacy and, in some cases, needing to know who you are. And I think this was part of the foundation of what we were trying to achieve here in the webinar generally, which is in order to get good data, operational data and strategic data, you have to deliver a valuable and easy experience to the end user. So we try to do that. We deliver a valuable and easy experience, a check-in, a make, a presence event. Presence events can come from badge swipes. They can come from network logons. They can come from all kinds of sources. That information is important on the operational side of the house, because if Jeremy has come into the building, he may have a reservation, he badged in, I'll check him in. I need to know it's Jeremy who came in order to take action on that reservation that he has coming up. Then down the road, I no longer need to retain Jeremy's specific information and the PII surrounding that event in order to do utilization analysis of the room. So we walk that balance between knowing who the person is and then anonymizing the data through that balance of operationally benefiting the end user and then anonymizing for strategic reporting down the road. So it's a great question. Love to go into it in more detail. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about with personal privacy, but at the highest level, that's how we find that balance.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Torrance. All right. Kind of actually along the line of occupancy, how do you define occupancy to get accurate presence data? For example, for both assigned permanent seats, or shared, or free address spaces. And Jeremy, you want to
Sure.
take that?
Yeah, and there's a few different things we kind of talked about earlier. There's different interfaces that people can use. If they've made a reservation, if they have a reservation, they can check in. That presence event can come through the check-in on their phone, through the web. A lot of our customers actually measure permanent space, and they capture presence information tied back to a badge swipe, and that's completely actually transparent to the end user. They don't even know, but that's where that presence information can come from. Free address space, that's an interesting one too, and there's things that we can do like with the QR code that Richard mentioned earlier. That's another way that we can capture presence information based on the free address space.
Thank you. Dara, maybe you can answer this one. You talk a lot about long-term utilization data captured by the system. We are looking at having a short-term utilization study done. Do you have a service for this?
We do, and so what we've tried to capture in the forum is not just a broad reservation platform, but something that could also be used on a fairly short-term basis to begin capturing and providing some quantitative, valuable quantitative information about how space is being used. And we can do that by location, by floor, by department, really whatever it is. So we try to leverage the technology side of it. There are many ways to do utilization studies. This is just simply one option. And we try to take advantage of systems that are already in place to assist us in capturing the necessary information, providing you back some of the reporting that Jeremy showed and outlined, so that you've got a quick snapshot of how your space is being utilized, and giving that to you in in the time frame that you choose. It could be for a month, or it could be for 60 days, or whatever your choice is.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and there is more information about that on our website. If anybody is interested, we'd be happy to send you some more details about that, or pass some info along. How about the question, does the platform work with sensors to measure utilization?
It does, and we have a couple of our customers that have it integrated with various sensor technology. Our open RESTful API allows us to have a very robust capability for integrations. So our real sensor approach is to allow a customer to choose the sensor technology that of their choice, that they may have a preference one technology platform versus another. We can fairly quickly integrate that sensor technology and begin capturing or importing that sensor data, combining it with reservation data or other badge data or a number of other data points to provide, whether it's utilization metrics or if it's just simply using it for validation of other presence types of technologies. So we'd be happy to speak to anybody about that because that is a very important and very strategic part of our plan moving forward, are tight, seamless integrations with technology platforms that are best of breed.
Great, thank you. And for those of you on the call, we are having a little bit of network issues, so if you are entering in questions, we may not be receiving them. You can email them to us, but we still have a couple here that we can get through. And Richard, you talked about other different kinds of signs that are digital signs that are available beyond just the Windows device. Can you share just a few of those that you work with?
Yeah, so like I said, AgilQuest is hardware agnostic. We do have the Intel market-ready solution signage, but we also do work with iOS devices, so iPads can be hung up outside of the conference rooms, as well as we do have an app that has the same interface like I showed earlier in the demo that shows what's going on in the room that day, able to walk up, make a reservation from the screen. But those are two that we work with closely, but again, we are hardware agnostic.
Excellent, thank you. All right, and let's see, finally, well, I did kind of briefly stay on this, so I'll go ahead and answer this question. If we want to try out the forum, or do you have a free trial? And I'll say, yes, we do offer free trial. We also offer access to a sandbox environment if anybody would like to spend a week digging in a little bit more. So again, we can set that up. We ask that you do submit that question to us via our website or at sales@agilquest.com. That way we have a better idea how to get it set up for you. All right, with that, unfortunately that looks like all the questions that we were able to access. Again, if you did have other questions that we didn't get to, apologize for the network issues here. Please email us those and we'll be happy to respond. You can email again sales@agilquest.com and that will get to the right person. All right, so for that, we thank you again so much for joining us. We would love to talk to you further about the forum and see how we can help you out. So please contact us or just wait for our next webinar. We do run about a bi-monthly demo webinar series, so you can get a peek at what's new in forum and ask any further questions you may have. All right, thank you so much again. We look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day.